guys, I'm Irene Hassan and I'm the Director of Operations of Noor Aesthetic and Wellness Center. I'm a licensed and certified master esthetician and I'm here today with Dr. Qureshi, also known as Dr. Q.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Qureshi. I'm also known as Dr. Q among the many fans and colleagues we have at the practice. I'm a board certified internist. I've been practicing for over 10 years. I practice in inpatient medical settings, including general medical floors, ICUs, and ER. I'm also an officer in the United States Air Force Reserve, where I currently hold the rank of major. I'm also the owner and medical director of Noor Aesthetic and Wellness Center. I'm happy to be here with you guys.
So Dr. Q, we have a few questions that we would like your expertise on.
Okay.
How important is medical education and clinical experience when recommending treatments or wellness plans to patients?
To be totally honest and transparent, a lot of what happens in wellness and aesthetics is cutting edge and new, and there's not a lot of data on it. Both the wellness industry and aesthetics moves very quickly. Because it moves so quickly, there has not always been enough research done on safety and efficacy of certain treatments. So at this point, everyone's kind of the same in terms of offering a treatment or a solution. But what the experience matters is in the complications. You know, someone who is not clinically experienced or clinically strong may not identify a complication on time, and if it does happen, either they don't recognize it on time or they don't know how to fix it, and that leads to worse outcomes. For example, if you took a physician who's treated patients for 10 years, for example, versus someone who is either not a physician or they're new, they've only practiced for, I don't know, 5 months. They both try a new injectable for aesthetics, or they're trying a new peptide to help boost immunity or something. If there's going to be a complication, regardless of what it is, whether it's a rash or palpitations or whatever you, the more experienced clinician is more likely to recognize it, and he or she is more likely to recognize and triage it a little better than someone who is not experienced. Case in point, sometimes people get reaction from certain lidocaines that we put on their faces before a laser procedure. An inexperienced person would confuse a rash with injury from a laser and say, oh, it's normal, just leave it alone. But for me, I can very quickly tell the difference between a allergic rash from an ointment for an anesthetic versus what a laser naturally does. And I've been able to handle those complications in a more judicious, time-sensitive manner, which leads to better outcomes. So I think clinical experience is extremely important in this field. A lot of what's happening in wellness, like I said, is very novel, very cutting edge with limited evidence. You'd rather do it with someone who has a strong clinical background so that if there's a complication, it can be treated early on in a safe and effective manner.
That's great. I agree. I think even personally, when I look into getting any sort of aesthetic treatments done, I'm looking into the provider educating me as opposed to trying to sell me. So I can definitely agree with that. What are some misconceptions you see that are spreading online about wellness, aesthetics, longevity, hormones, all of that?
Well, that's a great question. I think a lot of what's happening online right now is there's a lot of salespeople out there who are promoting half-baked, I call them kind of half-baked ideas. I think that because of the success of the GLP-1s, they've been quite successful in both diabetes management and also weight loss. There's now this mantra that every peptide in higher doses must be therefore good for you, whether it's boosting energy, immunity optimization, concentration, anxiety, all those things. They must do good for everything, and that's not always true. Just because there's more of something you have, it may not be a good thing. Here's an example. Our blood is potassium. You have electrolytes in your body. You have sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, you have all these electrolytes. I don't know, what if I took an IV and pumped you full of potassium? Well, that's what they do in prison. When they're doing lethal IV injections, they're intentionally giving you high concentration of potassium chloride. Because why? Too much potassium through the blood leads to your muscles kind of spasming and shutting down. It affects the electrical activity of your muscles. Your heart is a muscle. So if I was to just, give you a bunch of potassium chloride through an IV, I could basically shut your heart off. I can cause an electrical malfunction and the heart turns off and the patient's dead. So that being said, we need to tread more lightly when it comes to certain therapies, especially in the peptide and longevity world. I express concern among many of my colleagues that a lot of the people who are in this industry tend to be health coaches and not necessarily physicians. The lack of clinical training, the lack of basic medical education and clinical experience can lead to worse outcomes in those people. What's also quite concerning is I've started getting myself these online ads for various labs that are direct to consumer selling research-only peptides, and we don't know what the purity of those compounds are. We don't know what the efficacies are. We don't even know, they even disagree on the dosing. One lab will say do 5 ml of this, another one will say do 3 ml. Nobody really knows. And what's kind of concerning is a lot of these online wellness centers and coaches are not only admitting that these are research use only, but they're promoting it like it's a great thing. They're leaning into it, and essentially what they're doing is they're telling you that you are the guinea pig, you are the research project. It's concerning because if something goes wrong, who do you call? They make it very clear in their marketing and in the contracts that you sign and in whatever waiver that you do. There's a waiver where they're telling you they are not physicians and they're not medically responsible, which is kind of a scary thing. So essentially what happens now is if you were to take these various compounds that have not been thoroughly studied, a complication arises. What do? There's no physician who you talk to ahead of time. And you go to the ER, they don't even know what you took, who made it, and what the outcome is. Whenever there's a toxicity, whether it's a medication overdose by accident or on purpose, or maybe, for example, a child drank dishwasher liquid, poison control usually knows how to handle these things. They give you instructions. I'm not so sure that poison control knows, for example, if you took a bad dose of some sort of peptide from some online lab. How do you manage it? What do you do? Even they will not know. So this is a very scary kind of field that we're in. If you're going to do certain wellness and longevity protocols, I would highly advise you go to a physician who is actually involved in the practice. A lot of these practices have a medical director, but he's in a totally different part of the country from where the clinic's located. The clinic might be in Florida, but the medical director is sitting in Seattle and you never see him. Those are not, in my opinion, very safe practices. You'd want to go somewhere where the physician is either on-site or he or she sees you through telehealth, and he or she is actively involved in your care and setting up the plan, monitoring you, check-ins. If you have any concern, his staff can get you in touch with that physician and they can directly handle it. So I think a lot of misconceptions are that everything is 100% safe, which is totally not true. They're not all safe. You can see some of the problems. Some people have had anaphylactic reactions. Now, was the anaphylactic reaction to the peptide itself, or was it because of the additive that was in the bottle that it came in? Or was it because of a lab error? We don't know that either. Maybe some people are just sensitive to certain peptides. There are some people, for example, I like shrimp. If they have shrimp, they can have an anaphylactic reaction. Someone who is a wellness coach may not know what anaphylactic reactions look like or how to handle it. Or they recognize it, but they can't do anything about it. They're not physicians. A physician can actually right away order you an EpiPen. He or she can right away triage you to the ER versus the urgent care versus, hey, I'm going to order this antibiotic for you and let's watch it. This is the importance of doing this with a physician who has knowledge in this particular industry, but also has strong clinical experience, so that in case something goes wrong, which it can, we don't know, but if it does, they're more likely to handle it in a more cost-effective and overall medically safe and effective manner.
That's very interesting. So what do you think is all the craze on social media with the health coaches?
Well, I think these health coaches have a lot of appeal because they're not bound by any regulation. You see, what they all do, they all put some kind of disclaimer either in the video or in the website or on the bottom of the caption that they are not medically licensed physicians or professionals of any kind. That being said, they have it both ways. They can make any claim they possibly want to make without the scrutiny of a medical or nursing board watching them. This makes them very successful salespeople. They are able to make claims and promises that are not rooted in science or not rooted in any actual logical belief. And what happens is they're able to sell training programs, products, peptides. So there's no accountability. If I, as a physician, were to make the same exact claims that they make, I get in serious trouble. The medical board would reach out. They'd be like, hey, you can't say XYZ. These were not studied, and actually these were disproven, and you're making a claim. You see, when a physician makes a claim on their marketing, on their website, or in a speech that is not rooted in science, that's been disproven, but they say, no, it's a fact, that is considered fraud. The medical board considers that a fraud. You can be disciplined, you can be fined, you can even be potentially disbarred. You can lose your medical license over it. So what happens now is these wellness coaches, they're quite successful right now because they don't have the regulatory authorities watching them. They can now make any claim they possibly want, and they can promote their products and services without any scrutiny.
You're saying they're not necessarily legally liable if anything goes wrong?
Well, I'm not an attorney, so I won't go that far, but they're definitely not responsible by the medical board because they made it clear that they're not physicians, they're not practicing medicine, they're just giving advice. But it just so happens that they're selling the products that their advice is for, which essentially is sales. So that being said, as I've said it numerous times, you want to be careful with these people because a lot of what they're pitching is not known to be safe, and some of it is actually quite known in medical circles to be dangerous. And when a complication arises, they're not going to help you. They're going to tell you to just go to the ER, which is expensive and may not even be necessary. They can't triage it. They don't know how to solve the complication. And even if they knew how to solve it, they can't solve it. They're not licensed medical professionals.
That's an interesting point though, because
Yeah.
they can't help you.
No.
If something goes wrong,
They can't.
you have to call a doctor.
Yeah.
Which is not them.
Yeah. And the thing is, when it comes to like money, they're not cheap either. I've noticed that a lot about them. They charge probably as much, if not more in many cases, than the physicians do. So how do they get away with it? Well, because they're very social media savvy. They're very good at marketing.
Yes.
They're younger, they're good looking, they know how to talk. They have large followings on, social media, LinkedIn, YouTube. They're very convincing by the sheer numbers.
They're convincing because they're sellers.
Correct. I'll tell you a secret. In med school, there was no personality courses for us. There was no personality courses. There was no how to be good in front of a YouTube camera course. Those guys did all those courses, on their own. We did not. So we didn't have any of that. We just learned anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, things that one ought to know when they're dealing with the human body. So what's happened now is it's basically a war now between the medical community versus the health and wellness coach, which is a euphemistic way of saying, I'm giving medical advice, but I'm not a physician. I'm not a professional.
So how do you stay grounded in science while still evolving with the industry?
That's a great question. To be honest, my process is this. I actually look forward to these health and wellness coaches marketing and videos, because if you follow them, which a lot I do, you have to start with what they're claiming. So what I do is I'll read a Reddit blog from them, or I'll watch their YouTube videos, or I'll watch their social media content and see what they're claiming. If they're claiming that there's some, peptide X that makes you jump faster, I watch the entire video and kind of take notes on what their claims are. And then I go through my own process. I'll go through, medical references, our own medical blogs, medical societies, journals, to try to look to see, has there been any actual research in what they're claiming? And if so, what was it? To be honest, what a lot of these guys do, they will cite a study. They're gonna cite a study that there was a study in, New Zealand that showed people who took this compound were able to run this much faster. Sounds great, studies sound convincing. But the problem is that not all studies are the same. They're not all created the same. Anybody can do a study. I can study 5 guys and ask them, how was the Michael Jackson movie? And if all 5 guys say, we loved it, A+, does that really mean that the Michael Jackson movie that just came out is the best movie ever? No, because there were problems with that study. There was bias. I picked the people who were out of that theater. It's underpowered. Underpowered meaning it's a low number of people asked. I just asked 5 people. And there were no controls. I just asked a subjective question that couldn't have been measured. So what happens is most of these studies that get cited, we consider them weak studies. Why are they weak? For a number of reasons. They don't control for bias. If you're asking runners who know they're taking a compound, did you run faster? Their perception is they may have. Well, how was it objectively done? Did you actually check their speeds? How many runners did you ask? Did you ask 5 runners? Did you ask 5,000 runners? Did you only ask the ones in New Zealand? Or did you ask the ones that were all throughout the world? Some in Europe, some in Africa, some in the Middle East. Were they men or women? You're looking for variability in a study. Most of these studies lack almost every aspect of a good study. They're underpowered. There's not very good variability. There's no controls whatsoever. They're not even objective. They're just subjective questions like, do you feel stronger? Do you feel like you're memorizing more? There's no objective measure. So a lot of what is cited are not considered strong or good. They're not considered good studies. So a lot of these guys will make a claim. They're going to cite some kind of study. Most of them don't even cite it. They say studies say, and they won't tell you which one. Others of these coaches will cite a study, but you should actually try to read them and you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see very quickly that they're kind of weak, or they're in the wrong species. Maybe they did a double-blind clinical study on fish in Fiji who swam faster because they took something. Well, I'm happy for the fish. The fish can swim faster, but we are not fish. We don't have gills and we can't breathe underwater. I don't have proof that just because a particular compound worked great in fish, it's going to work great in us as people. So that is the problem. These particular coaches, it's very easy to find a study that supports your claim. It can be wrong by the manner by which it was conducted, the variables tested, even the species. The biggest problem is most of these studies, especially in the wellness business, are on rats. We're not rats. Maybe the politicians are, but us people, we're not rats. We're people. And
Speaking of rats, so you're saying that you follow the trials and the studies. How do you feel about certain products that are being publicized on social media with nickname rats, being rats or different lettering?
Again, I mean, we've been doing scientific data with animal studies a lot, but whenever there's a product that the FDA approves, they didn't approve it because it improved a rat or a dog's life. They approve it because eventually, when you approve the safety and efficacy in an animal, at some point, especially when you're in stage 3, clinical trials of the FDA, you're doing it on humans, and you're doing it not just on 5 people, you're doing it on countless number of people, ideally in different geographies, different races, different genders, different conditions to prove the superiority of the drug in investigation versus a placebo. That's what's supposed to happen. Unfortunately, a lot of these protocols and peptides, they just weren't studied in humans enough, either in quantity or by manner. It doesn't mean they don't work. I don't want to make that claim because a lot of people have claimed to have used it and have claimed it has helped their lives. But because we're going into this unknown territory of whether it works or not, or whether it's safe or not, you're better off doing it with someone with a clinical and medical background versus another who's just a coach whose only background is making great YouTube videos. That's not the same as treating an anaphylactic reaction, an allergic reaction from an investigational drug.
So what would you say that patients are actually looking for when they're looking into these wellness services, products, aesthetics?
Good question. So this is where I have my criticism with the Medical Society of the West. I think we've been slow to innovate. We've been too slow to innovate for longevity and wellness. We have been too focused on finding a problem and fixing it. But the people who are interested in these services, they're pretty healthy. They tend to be affluent, educated. A lot of them are people who are already healthy, but they want to boost performance. They want to run faster. They want to jump higher. They want to maintain cognition. These are individuals who they don't just want to age and be stuck in a wheelchair. They're trying to better themselves. There is a supplements industry, and there is evidence that some supplements can help with that. But the problem remains the same, whether it's a supplement or it's a peptide. Who is the one prescribing it, promoting it, managing it? It tends not to be a physician. And if a complication arises, these people are out of luck. They're injured pretty badly, and no one can help them. So I think we're entering a world now where we have to be more open-minded and more willing to try more cutting-edge therapies in a safe manner. We have to help get the public what they want. People don't just want to see the doctor when they're hurt anymore. They ought to see us if they want to optimize something. We ought to help them get there.
So for everybody that's overwhelmed by seeing all this online wellness advice, how do you recommend finding somebody that's trustworthy?
Essentially, you're going to have to ask around, but even that's not always foolproof. A lot of these health coaches, like I said, have huge followings.
Absolutely.
They have millions of followers, so you would assume because they spoke on a talk show or they were in a magazine cover
or have great before and afters.
Exactly, that they're experts, and they're really not. I think it begins with the consultation. We're in a world now where a lot of these practices, including ours, we're putting out more educational content. You guys are watching us. If you watch our content and you vet what we're saying and you believe that I think this clinician may be right, then you start with the consultation. You should come for a consultation.
I agree.
Tell the medical provider what you feel. I feel tired a lot. Well, are you sure it's not a thyroid issue? A lot of times people, I've seen them coming in, they're complaining of fatigue, which is a massive complaint. We find out half the time they had hypothyroidism. A coach wouldn't have known that or wouldn't have even known to check for that, but we did, and we treated their hypothyroidism and they're feeling great again. They were having hormone imbalances, low testosterone. These things were making them feel that way, or there were psychosocial factors. They have a very difficult personal life, stress at work, stress at home. There are other factors that made them feel that way. You want to see someone who is able to delineate those other ideologies and try to help them. A coach won't know that. The only thing he or she knows is his product that he or she's trying to sell you. And they're going to convince you that this product that they have a commission affiliation with or that they directly sell is going to solve all the problems. And they can say and do whatever they want because there's no medical or nursing board watching them. They don't have to. They only regulate licensed professionals from that board. A coach has no accountability. They're free to say exactly as they please, which is why I would shy away from them and try to go to a practice that at least has a physician who's trying to promote these services. They're best at guiding towards the most evidence-based pathway. And if there is a complication, they're more able to correct it and rectify the course early on in an efficient manner versus just go to the ER. The average ER physician may not even know what these peptides are. They're going to think you're talking in computer code and won't know what they do, how to do it. They're Googling these things. So that's why it's quite important to go to a practice that has a medical background. Ideally, a board certified physician would be ideal for that reason.
Thank you, Dr. Q. That was a lot of great information. Where can everybody find you?
Well, good question. We're all over the internet. We got social media, we got a LinkedIn page, but I think the easiest way for this audience to find us is through our website. It is www.thenoormd.com for medical doctor. You can start there and please book a consultation. If you want to try various of these longevity treatments, just book the consultation with us first. I'm a board certified physician. I am licensed in over 42 states in the US, and I've practiced for quite some time. I would love to at least talk to you, get to know what your concerns are, and try to guide you as best as possible. Maybe your problem is medical. We can treat it. We look forward to hearing from you soon.